Welcome you to this very important occasion of signing our performance contracts. As has been said, the people of Kenya are the ultimate employers of all of us. They pay our salaries, they pay our allowances, and because they do, they legitimately demand of us that we meet our commitments, that the program that we sold to the people of Kenya, we keep, we perform, we implement, and we actualize what we committed ourselves to. Let me say that before I make my statement, that there are two fundamental things that I want us, the people who are the senior-most members of our administration, that we have a historic moment as a country to make Kenya the great country that we always wanted it to be. We've discussed, there's been many analogies as to what countries that started with us. We've discussed about Malaysia, we've discussed about Singapore, we've discussed about the Asian tigers, and we have made all manner of references. I want to say that this is the historic moment for Kenya to be the great nation that we always wanted it to be. And history has given us the opportunity, those of us seated here, to be the men and the women that will bring the greatness of our country to where it is and to where it should be. It's a very defining moment from where I sit, because I see the great opportunity for our country. And that is why, for the first time in Kenya, we are in the midst of the most vigorous national debate in our nation's democratic history. For a few years now, the cost of living has been an oppressive yoke around the necks of most Kenyans, and its most punitive effects have been felt by vulnerable people, most of them at the bottom of our economic pyramid. The COVID-19 pandemic, for example, not only brought home the intense local impact of tremendous external shocks occasioned by disruption of international supply chains and markets, it also revealed the limitations of the prevailing economic model and exposed the full extent of the nexus between the state and citizens. For those who had jobs, majority of whom were in the informal sector, the prices of essential commodities rose beyond the purchasing power of their incomes, demonstrating the precarity of the majority of our people's livelihoods, and serious illness brought with it the ever-present threat of poverty arising from exorbitant medical costs. Although there was opportunity to use the COVID-19 downtime to increase agricultural productivity, subsidizing farm inputs was not a priority compared to vendor-driven pandemic-related expenditure, which eventually failed due to wastage, corruption, non-performance, and delays. Other measures and programs undertaken during this time exacerbated the suffering of Kenyans at the bottom and made many people question the priorities of their government. This was the beginning of the national conversation that subsists to this minute and has anchored robust engagements which defined the last election and subsequent political and policy discourse. The primary bone of contention is, who does the government work for? An old and favored approach to answering this question was to pledge to do more, in fact, much more, of the same old policies, programs, projects, and interventions that have failed at such a high cost that poverty, unemployment, and underdevelopment are actually intolerable. The other option was to embrace a bold new vision and undertake ambitious interventions aimed at transforming the country's economy by creating jobs, increasing incomes, while ensuring that food, shelter, and health are available to everyone, especially those of us who are not privileged. I say this in reflection because a trend was created that using other people's money, which is debt, is a very innovative way of delivering government programs, which is the biggest fallacy, because as a result of using other people's money and contracting debt left, right, center, front and back, we drove our country almost to the brink of debt distress. And it became our first assignment to steady the economy of our country and to pull back our country from going over the cliff. I am very proud today that almost a year in, our economy has steadied. I am very proud today that the interventions that we have taken, though not popular, though very painful, but I want to say here, they have paid off. Today, our country is on fairly sound economic footing. And our decision to do more around collecting our own taxes, to do more about living within our means, and to borrow less, and to work on our fiscal deficit, I must admit, has paid off better than I even thought myself. And I want to thank the people of Kenya for having confidence in the measures that we have taken. We engage Kenyans all over the length and breadth of our country on the most urgent priorities and the best ways and means of implementing them. Ultimately, it became clear that the new approach to national development was not only going to be ambitious and visionary, it was also going to be radical and transformative. To begin with, the plan was going to turn the national development agenda upside down. From the traditional top-down model that is essentially elite-centric to a bottom-up model that is citizen-centric and people-centered. Secondly, the model would aim to positively impact millions of Kenyans at the bottom by focusing interventions where the greatest number find their livelihoods, which is the informal sector and especially agriculture and the hustler economy. Thirdly, a new model will entail measures to not only create millions of jobs and increase incomes, but also reduce the cost of living by mitigating the cost of energy, transport, shelter, healthcare as a share of household incomes. We agreed with Kenyans that to deliver this transformative model, 5 sectors would form the core pillars of our agenda to bring down the cost of living, eradicate hunger, create jobs, expand the tax base, improve our foreign exchange balance, and deliver inclusive growth, and to do so from the bottom up. These sectors are agriculture, micro and small medium enterprise economy, affordable housing, universal healthcare coverage, and digital superhighway with a creative economy. These form the pillars of Better, our plan, the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which sets out my performance contract with the people of Kenya that I entered on behalf of all of us to be delivered by the entire government. The terms of the contract are fairly straightforward. In return for paying their due taxes in a timely fashion, the citizens of this country not only expect, but are entitled to receive the benefits of all government services in a prompt and satisfactory manner. By virtue of our governing mandate, we are committed to the performance of our part of the contract, and so in full.